Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Come Off Conqueror show. Thanks so much for joining us today. And a huge thank you to our guest this week, Griff Neilson, who is the owner of Lifelong Fitness. He's also a speaker, an author. He's got a million different degrees and certifications. We'll get into his bio in a second. The guy is a master at his craft, and I'm thrilled to have him with us. Thanks for being here, Griff.
Yes, thank you, Bonnie. Thanks for having me.
This is long overdue. Griff actually is a big part of why I started this channel. He's been my coach for a couple of years now. And when I first started working with him, I was not in a great place. And I had told him about this idea of this channel, and he helped give me the confidence and the courage to lift it off the ground. And he was supposed to be one of my first few interviews. And then anyway, that didn't really happen. So thanks for being patient and for finally getting on the show.
All right. Yeah, save the worst for last, right, Bonnie?
So whatever. But it is timely because Griff's, our topic for today is all about New Year's resolutions and goals and sticking with those goals and what has kept us from reaching those goals in the past. And this interview comes on the heels of last week's, which if you saw that interview with my dear friend, Jeremy Osler, you know that his interview was dynamite as well. And it was about mindset and about releasing your past trauma and false belief systems so that you can reach your higher potential and your goals and things like that. So this is like a continuation of that conversation. So I'm really excited because Griff's perspective on this is paramount to my success and to the success of literally hundreds of people that he has coached over the last 17, 20 years, something like that he's been in the business. So let me tell you a little bit about Griff. And as I do that, smash the like button, share, do all that stuff because it helps us really grow the channel and get these messages of hope and encouragement out. Thank you so much for participating and doing that for us. All right, let me tell you about Griff. Griff has been a, how do you call yourself a personal trainer? Because you're more than a personal trainer. You're a life coach. You're a holistic health specialist. You're an author. I mean, what title do you give yourself, Griff?
I think there is many hats, but I think the overall title is health coach. Yeah.
Health coach. All right. So he's been doing this for 17 years, you guys. He owns Lifelong Fitness here in Kaysville, but he also is an author. He wrote a book called Exercise. What's it called? Exercising Your Excuses, Heal Your Mind, Honor Your Body, Manifest Your Dream. He's also has tons of different certifications at the personal trainer level and holistic health and health coaching and life coaching and those sort of things as well, in addition to his bachelor's degree from the University of Utah. And I want to say exercise science, is that right?
Yes. Yep.
And he's helped personally, like this in his bio, he said personally he's coached over 500 people in health and nutrition and mindset changes, helping them really achieve their goals. So this guy knows what he's talking about. He's been doing this a long time. So you can trust that whatever he's about to share today, you can take to the bank. I personally have had a lot of success with him. I started going to him because I was trying to lose weight. I had gained weight again after my fourth pregnancy, and I was trying to lose that weight. But what we realized was that there was a lot of other issues going on besides just weight gain. And a big part of my weight gain issues all stemmed from trauma that I've been holding on to, both in my past life, my previous life, and also I was having some marriage problems going on at that time. And he really helped me overcome those. My marriage is now in a great spot. I am personally doing 1,000 times better. And a lot of that is due to Griff's constant love and care and support and his system. So thank you, Griff.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the kind words.
So let's dive into our topic. Our topic today is, like I said before, about what really holds us back from reaching those health goals that we might have. And I know it's the new year. Everyone always has, pretty much everybody I know always has weight loss or getting healthy, getting off whatever pills they're on as a part of their goals, in addition to getting in a better place mentally. And right now, mental health is a big buzz word, right? It's a big buzz topic. And I personally know a lot of people who that is one of their major goals, is to get in a better place mentally so that they can have better health physically. So Griff, talk to us about the connection between your emotional health and your mental health and your physical health. How are they connected?
You know, it is a loaded question, but I'd say, Bonnie, that the way I take that in and the way I assess it, I always want to look through a holistic lens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what is the big picture? What is the connection between the mind, the body? As cliche as that sounds, what connections are there, and how does that manifest into the results that we get in life? And I'll say this. I've been doing this for over 20 years now, and I will say that I've never coached a client or seen one of my other trainers' clients that has achieved long-term success without having a solid bulletproof mindset. And I know, mindset it almost sounds coy, it almost sounds trite because it's thrown around so much right now. But if we consider the fact that neuroscience tells us that 96 to 98% of all human behavior is subconscious in nature, then we can pretty much look at any given individual and we can look at their habits and we can understand that they are running programs, to use a computer analogy, at the subconscious level. Okay, so the dirty little secret is that everything, the way that we eat, the way that we speak, what we wear on a daily basis, the way that we interact with our loved ones and associates and peers, to whether we believe we have time to work out or if we have time to build a relationship, whatever habit we're considering, that is stemming from a subconscious belief. There's a little saying that I'm quite fond of, and it is that all actions are belief driven, minus or barring coercion. There could be a little asterisk there, but all actions are belief driven. And then if we have to break that down even further, if we're asking where are those beliefs housed, well, we have, and this is a little bit rudimentary, but it makes the point. We have our conscious mind and we have our subconscious mind. And most people are banking on their conscious mind to make all sorts of decisions. For example, they might listen to a podcast and they get super excited. I listened to this fitness guru today and I'm excited. I'm going to make changes. And we do, and they do this little 180 effect. And I jokingly call it from Cheeto to keto. Imagine this. They're listening to a podcast on a Friday, right? And they're like, oh man, I learned this about keto. And you know what? I'm 70 pounds overweight. I've been in a habit of eating ice cream and Cheetos every night. But now, consciously, I heard something. Consciously, I heard this podcast and it resonated with me. And it made sense. I can consciously understand that if I go on a ketogenic diet, I'm going to lose weight, right? So consciously, I'm understanding this and I'm excited and I'm motivated and I have desire. But what most people are not understanding is that when they get into Monday and they have all this pizzazz going and they're ready to go, and they start to make all these changes, like instantly, what they're not seeing is that at the subconscious level, which, let me repeat, is responsible for 96 to 98% of all human behavior and habits. What they're not accounting for is that that subconscious terrain, or the programming, to use a computer analogy, has not been changed. They simply watched a program or listened to a podcast. They consciously understood it. And then when they get to Monday, they've got all these swimming subconscious beliefs that are completely antagonistic to what they just learned. For example, let's say that they have the belief system of, I don't have time to work out. Okay. And this is a subconscious belief, not conscious. They're not thinking this consciously. And that's the dirty little secret. They're not sitting there going, well, I don't have time. Now they might be, but most of the time, they're simply not thinking about that. And when it comes time to work out, they might have enough willpower. They might have enough desire to consciously override the subconscious program initially. And that's key. So for the first week or two, or maybe 3, they might get to the gym. They might make the time. But then, inevitably, that subconscious belief starts to swell up. And the thing about a subconscious belief is it's not just a belief. A subconscious belief becomes a truth to the person that is housing the belief. Mm. So if the belief says, I don't have time to work out, remember, all actions are belief driven. What happens in time is that every excuse will start to come up. Oh, you know what? I've got my kids play tonight. I don't know how I'm going to make this happen. Oh, you know what? I'm not really feeling up to it today. Or, oh, you know what? Joe called tonight and he wants me to come over. And you know what? Maybe just this once. What the person doesn't understand is that the subconscious belief is what is germinating these other excuses or quote unquote reasons that are coming into the mind that are pretty much sidetracking them from what the goal is, and that is to work out. Remember, they had the conscious impetus, they had the podcast, they had the YouTube video where they were inspired consciously, but every time, if the subconscious mind is not properly reprogrammed, those beliefs will take over. And I've never seen this not to be true. If the mind is not right, yeah.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, if the mind is not right, the actions will not follow, at least long term. And that's just a fact. That is a universal principle, and neuroscience has confirmed it time and time again.
So I realize that obviously the follow-up question that's begged to be asked is, well, how do you rewrite the subconscious mind? Right. And I realize that is another very loaded question that you can't answer in the next 15 minutes, but we're going to attempt to, in 5, give a glimpse as to how, obviously working with a trainer, having accountability partners and things like that are key to doing that. But if you are resonating with this, I know everyone else who's listening is going to say, well, what do I do? How do I overcome that? How do I get rid of that subconscious belief?
Well, there's a simple way and then there's a complex way. Let's start with the simple, shall we?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay, let's start with the simple. And if we have time, we can go into the more complex formula. But regardless, the simple formula is what I call the AAA solution. Okay, and it's very simple. And each A is absolutely key in reprogramming the subconscious mind. And the first A stands for awareness. Okay. Awareness is the kingpin of any kind of subconscious change. So, and this one gets a little bit, it's a little bit enigmatic in the sense that, well, it's a subconscious belief, Griff. How can I be aware of it, right? If it's subconscious, how am I going to be consciously aware? And here's how I would answer that question. If you look at your life and you see areas that patternistically are not favorable to any kind of result that you're getting. Let's say, for example, you want to get in shape and you keep seeing this pattern of time
Cheating?
come up. Well,
I think we should say cheating when you're stressed.
okay. So like cheating on your diet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's take that as an example. You're looking at your nutrition, and every time you see this pattern, like, well, I keep cheating on my nutrition. Okay. And you establish that. So you look at it like, oh, okay. I set a goal 3 months ago. And I'm finding that every time I cheat on foods that I shouldn't be eating, because I know I shouldn't, I already made the commitment, I drew out my plan, I consulted my coach, whatever, but I noticed that I keep coming back to the same pattern. See, that's right there. It's very, very simple. I am aware of the pattern. I don't necessarily have to dissect why or how at this point, but I am simply aware. This keeps happening, right? This is not in my best interest. This is sabotaging me. And awareness in and of itself, even though it's not strategic at this moment, is absolutely key. Most people, and this is key, do not even get to this stage. They don't even get to the awareness stage. Most people, they're just like, yeah, well, this is my reality.
Why? Do you think they're just in denial or want to be in denial, or what's holding them back from even getting to awareness?
Well, this goes back to when we have a subconscious belief, this becomes our truth. Okay. Most people don't question a truth. Think of anything that is near and dear to your heart. What truths do you have in your life, right? Mm-hmm. We tend not to question the truth. And you'll notice I put truth in air quotes because our truths are very relative to what we say they are. My truth could be completely different from yours, Bonnie, and yours could be completely different from your husband's, right? Mm-hmm. Truths, our own personal truths, are our subconscious beliefs. If I say, I don't have time to work at that because my truth. If I'm looking at my pattern of eating junk food when I shouldn't, and I observe the pattern, I might have a truth that says, well, I've seen this time and time again, I deserve to have the foods that I enjoy eating because I only live life once. If that's my truth, if that's a truth, and I'm fighting in turn, like, well, don't tell me what to do. I mean, I only live life once. And if I deserve this, I deserve it. That's a truth, right? This is something that drives us, and we hold dear to these truths. I call it the mother cub syndrome. You know, what's going to happen to me if I go up to a mother grizzly bear and try to take her cub? You know, is that going to bode well for me? Not going to bode well for me. I don't think I'm going to escape that.
How are we going to attack you?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be having part 2 of this podcast if that ever happened, right? Well, the same thing. If I try to take, if you notice that when people get a truth, a subconscious belief, and you try to, and this is especially true in a coaching situation, if you try to challenge that belief, if you try to tell the person that is convinced that they don't have time, that they're just making that up, and that that's just a subconscious belief, they get very defensive. And they pull out their phone, we'll look at my calendar, Griff. You know, how dare you say this? It's very ignorant of you. Mm-hmm. Very judgmental of you, right? They're defending the truth. They're defending their own version of reality, essentially, okay? But in this state, to bring this into full circle, if we're defending a truth, we cannot be in a state of awareness. Now, there's a big difference. Now, if I'm saying, oh, you know what? I just observed this pattern of me eating and cheating. This is a problem. That's awareness. What is not awareness is, well, of course I'm eating this because I deserve to, and I only live once, and I'm stressed out. Why wouldn't I? That's not awareness, right?
Yeah. So what's after awareness? Once you've figured out that what your pattern is, what do you do then? You have 3 A's, right? Is what you said.
The second one, yes, the second A is what I believe, Bonnie, to be the most difficult A, and that is acceptance. Okay. Mm-hmm. Again, if we become aware of something, and that's our brainchild, that's our truth, it is very difficult to disenfranchise ourselves from that belief. In other words, when we have a truth, our little friend, our ego, starts to get invested, right? We identify. I identify with not having time. I have a secret, almost subconscious badge of honor that says, I don't have time. I'm a busy person. And maybe this label has something that says, well, if I'm busy, that must mean I'm important. If I'm busy, that must mean I'm relevant to the world and that I'm contributing, right? So I have this label, I have this belief system. And if I get to the second A, I'm like, okay, I've seen this pattern and I'm busy, or I'm eating the foods that I shouldn't. Now I have to see the pattern A, I have to be aware of it. And then now I have to accept it. Oh no. So everything that I've been telling myself for years, that I don't have time, and I've been backing it up with evidence every day. Now I have to accept that. I have to accept the fact that I'm indulging in these foods, and it's not really external to me. It's really because of me, and that I have power over that. Oh, no. No, I'm powerless, right? So if I'm powerless, if this is just being subjected upon me, I can't possibly accept this. Okay. Now, if we look at the other point of view, if I'm in a state of awareness and now I say, I don't like these patterns, I have to accept it. I have to intervene and say, yeah, you know what? These are behaviors that I've been performing for so long, and it's okay. I'm a human being. You don't have to get on yourself or be negative about it, but with acceptance, you have to literally do that. You have to sit back, be an observer of your own actions and say, yeah, that is happening. And I accept that. I accept that I am heading in the wrong direction, and that's on me. Does that make sense?
Yes. And you said something about being powerless. By ignoring it, you're essentially saying that fate is working on you, right? And the world is making you do this or whatever. And that really triggers me, because the whole point of Come Off Conqueror, right, is that we are in charge and we have the power over our lives.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was like, wait a minute, but I have power over my subconscious. I have power over my life. I have power over my decisions. I refuse to let anyone or anything ever control me again. As many of the people, as you know, in this show, the viewers of this channel have been abused or gone through some sort of trauma like that, where they have felt victimized, right?
Right. Sure.
And so I'm sure a few of you also felt triggered when he said that, because it's like, whoa, hold on. No, I don't ever want anything to take away my power ever again. Sure. And so that's interesting, that accepting that this is happening and accepting the pattern will allow you to take back your power and to be in control over your life. Okay. So what's number 3? What's our third A?
The third A is action. It's action.
And
So
take back our power. Okay. Good segue.
So once you are aware of your pattern, and 2, you've accepted it, the third step is you take action in the opposite direction of where you have been taking action, right? And let me be sympathetic to what you're saying, Bonnie, because obviously we're kind of on the surface and we're talking about making a lifestyle change with health or nutrition or whatever. Now, in terms of abuse, when there is severe psychological subconscious damage, I'm not here to suggest that the AAA solution alone is enough to correct that or to rectify that, right? But what I am saying is that these are universal principles, in that in the healing process, it absolutely is relevant. And obviously working in conjunction with a therapist or whatever is going to be highly relevant. But these principles, as hard as they are, they do work. And regardless of where we're at with health or nutrition or whatever, Or if there's abuse involved, there's many different layers of this that have to be unpacked. And again, that's where working with a skilled therapist is going to be absolutely needed.
That's a part of the action, though,
Yeah,
right? Like realizing
absolutely.
that your abuse, your past trauma is a part of the subconscious wiring and part of the programming, and
Right.
accepting that that is a part of what's keeping you in this state, right? And
Well,
so many times abuse victims, they either one stay in victim mode, right? Like,
yep.
this happened to me, I can't change it, blah, blah, blah. Or they want to change it, but they don't know how. And I think what you're suggesting here with action is get a therapist, get a trainer, get a friend, get somebody to help you rewire it. Because especially when you're gone through big, complex traumas like that, it's really hard to do by yourself. And I wish I could say that, like, it's not the case, but this is speaking from personal experience, not just for me, but so many other women I've talked to. They really started to find healing in all areas of their life once they started working with some sort of practitioner. Amen. Whether it was a therapist, a life coach, a health coach, a IFS practitioner, it doesn't matter, but somebody else who was outside of their head, who could see things more clearly. It was then that the actions started sticking and rewriting everything.
Well, if you look at the AAA solution in the context of any kind of therapeutic route, whether it be a psychologist or a life coach or whatever, what you're going to find, Bonnie, is that's what they do in depth. Mm-hmm. A psychologist raises your awareness. Whether you like it or not, you are having your awareness raised when you're in session with that professional. And what they're trying to do through open-ended questioning and getting to know you and your past, they're trying to get you to a point of like, okay, you're in a place of your life where you don't like, what are we going to do? That's acceptance, right? Then a skilled therapist is going to say, well, with this newfound knowledge of these patterns in your life, here's a plan. Here's what we're going to do. Here's a roadmap, and that would be action, right? And these are not easy steps. I'm not sitting here saying that it's really easy to generate awareness. I'm certainly not saying to accept it is easy.
It can be very painful.
Very painful, especially in the context of like abuse and everything. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try to say that I've been through any of that, but I can only imagine. I've worked with clients that have. Mm-hmm. And that second one, that acceptance phase, is, you can probably understand why I preface it by saying this is, in my opinion, the hardest phase. Mm-hmm. Is to actually accept that. And sometimes when we start to, garner these labels and we start to see life through a certain prism and a certain lens, we get rewards, even though they're painful. There's a certain reward if I'm saying that I don't have time for something, right? Because I don't have to do what I maybe don't want to start doing. And that is in the same vein with anything. If I have to deal with abuse, that is very painful. If I have to shine a light on that, it's very painful. That's why there's techniques like EMDR and other things in talking therapy. Like when we're getting our awareness higher, there's a certain amount of pain there. We can't meander around the pain. There are certain times where we have to face it. And it doesn't mean that it has to be all at once, but we have to eventually face that and go through that. And that, if you'll notice, that AAA solution is always in play with any kind of therapeutic setting, with any kind of lifestyle change, with any kind of behavioral change. You're always going to see this thematically show up. So
that's really a really good point. And as you're explaining that, I'm going through all the different modes of therapy I've been through. And yeah, they all go through all three of those stages. It's really interesting to see that. We're just about out of time for this segment. We're going to wrap up this one, and then we'll see you next week for part 2. But in closing for this segment, because Griff and I could talk about this topic for hours, you guys, and you've all asked me to keep these videos short. So I have one last question for him for this week, which will lead us into, which will be our carrot for next week. So you can join us the next week. Now that we have our 3 stages, awareness, acceptance, and action, let's talk about some actions that we can take to stick with our goals and to stick with making some of these healthy lifestyle changes. So can you give us a preview of maybe what we'll talk about next segment?
Yeah, I would say start with the most relevant one thing. Don't try to start everything at a time. What is one thing, if you're shining that light of awareness, what is the one thing that you can take action on right now? And it doesn't have to be hard. You don't have to be a glutton for punishment. Let's say, for example, let me just draw up a typical scenario. Let's say there's a typical gal that wants to lose 70 pounds. She's been sedentary and she's wanting to make health changes. I would advise that person, maybe start with water intake. It's not over the top. You can, drink half of your body weight in ounces. And if you can do that on a daily basis, do it for 2 to 3 weeks, master it, and then move on to the next. But just focus in like a laser beam on one thing at a time so that you're not feeling inundated. Again, the whole, Cheeto to keto stuff doesn't work. But if you can do one thing at a time, and if you can give yourself the grace of not having to change everything at once, what you will find is that over time, one domino will push over the next, and you will make sustainable lifestyle change in time.
Awesome. That is great advice. Okay, so this week, while you're waiting for our next segment, think about that one thing that you can change and do. I can tell you from personal experience, when I tried to change way too many things at one time, it didn't last, right? I gave up within a week or 2, or sometimes I lasted a whole month, but usually it was pretty fast. But he's right, that making small and simple changes and gradually making those changes really does work. So report back, let me know what your one thing was. And if you want to support accountability partner, message me. I'd be happy to help you along that path as well. Okay, guys, thanks again. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, do all that stuff so that we can help grow our channel and help get these amazing, encouraging experiences or messages, out to the world. And thanks again, Griff. And don't go anywhere because we're going to film segment number 2 right now.